Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon platform, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You also see the two books by our next guest. We're excited to welcome back award-winning author Tina Siemens. She's the author of this book, Seminal, Some People Never Give Up. We have it highlighted in the carousel on Amazon, but also the author of this book as well, The Little Sandals That Could. This is a very special month for us to be talking to Tina because this is Personal History Awareness Month, which is perfect for her because her book is all about her own personal history, her family's history, and also the lessons learned and how they've been able to persevere. I also want to welcome those tuning in on the simulcast. So we are on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram. Over on Instagram, I see hello to you, Teresa Merritt Watson. Glad you could join us. Ellen, hello to you. On the IG side, we have Robert Ham also over there as well. Glad you all could join us as well. If you guys have any questions or comments for Tina, make sure you guys put those in the comment section. Not only has she written these books, Tina also has a museum in Texas. We're going to talk to her about that and a big event that's coming up as well. But Tina, always a pleasure to speak with you again. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. Every time we have these on a schedule, it's like, oh yes, we got another time to just talk about what I love talking about, and that is history.
Yeah. And you've been able to do a lot of that. And I should say, I didn't mention it in my intro, but Tina has also been stepping outside her comfort zone. I've been pushing her a little bit. But this year, she has been a part of two virtual conferences. She was a part of my conference in April, which was my conference, The Right Stuff, where she was able to share a bit of her story. And most recently, she was a part of Imagine the Possibilities virtual conference just last week, where she was able to be a part of Melissa Banks' event, sharing a bit of her history as well. Tina, talk about that experience. What has it been like for you to use your life to be able to not only talk about history, but also how your own personal history has impacted you?
Well, the opportunities that have come my way, wow, the it's just been such an amazing experience. It's a learning curve for me because, like I told Cyrus before we came on, technology is not what I grew up with. So just learning the technology end of it has been a learning curve for sure. But then to share not only my personal history, but so many others that have this amazing story in themselves, but they haven't found the right avenue to be able to share that, or they've just not found the courage to do so. But thanks to Cyrus, he's kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I have just absolutely loved learning all the new ways of sharing. So often it's just in your own little family or in your own little community, but with the technology we can share worldwide, and that's just the
Yeah.
beauty of it.
Yeah. And so, Tina, one of the things we haven't talked about, and I thought about it as you were just talking, you and I met because of this book, Seminole, Some People Never Give Up. And now, of course, people can buy it all over the world on Amazon. But
Mhm.
how did it all start? Were you writing by hand initially, or how did you start writing this book?
I was a late bloomer going to college because I got married first, had my two sons, and
Hmm.
then I attended. But I always wanted to write. So every opportunity that I could, where I could take a class on how to write and things like that, I took them. And so I have many notebooks full of handwritten notes of what I just wanted to record my family's history. And that is what those notes are. Uh, in 2016, I had the opportunity to travel to my first destination, which was Poland, where my ancestors, and at that destination, I learned so much of where my family truly began and had their roots, which was in the Netherlands. So for me to have been able to go there, that's when I really started filling in my notes, handwritten notes with actual dates and actual family history tidbits of what I found in archives. So it started with handwritten notes, but it didn't start out like I wanted, oh, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to be an author. It was just for my family to have a written account.
Yeah.
That was my initial thought of when I started with the manuscript, which became, it looked more and more like a manuscript the more I wrote, the more I traveled and
Hmm.
went through archives. All the new information that I was gleaning from those travels became what you now see as Seminole.
Love that. Love that. Hello to you, Chris. Chris is joining us on Facebook. It says good to see us. Tina, good to see you as well, Chris. And Ellen on Instagram says, Cyrus will do that. She's talking about me pushing. She says Cyrus would do that, but in a good way. He's not a bully, but a dream pusher. I love him. Well, thank you for that,
Yeah,
Ellen.
that's so
It all is coming out of love. And I want to talk about that love when it comes to you, Tina, because your love of history, your love of sharing history has really been able to bear fruit there in Texas. So I want to talk about that. Could you have imagined when you wrote this book, when you wrote the book, The Little Sandals That Could as well, that you would now be teaching others how to be able to share their own history?
no, that too. Like, I think it was a dream within me that I did not realize it was there.
Hmm.
So as we just kind of blossom in what our calling is, so often we discover things that we didn't even know we wanted. But once those doors open and we walk through those, the fruit of the reward that we get from having that opportunity present itself and we take that opportunity, it is just such a powerful uh, endorsement of who God made you to be. And teaching what I love was an extra gift that I can now share with others. So it's just beautiful if we don't stay in one spot. Like, I heard a guy just this weekend say, don't mistake movement for progress. We
Hmm.
can all move in
Yeah.
within our um, community or within our family, but if we don't make progress, then it's just movement. And so I feel like I've been able to make progress with my movement that started out as just handwritten notes. So I'm just grateful for the opportunities to be able to share my story now via technology, via all the platforms, but then
Yeah.
also I physically teach the history at my museum once a week. I mean,
Love that.
sorry, once a month. So it's
Once a month.
both the online and in person as well.
Love that. Ellen says, Ellen has a question for you, Tina, over on Instagram. She says, what got you interested in holding on to your history? That's a good question.
That is a good question. Thank you, Ellen, for that. I think to me it's just so important because I have had to spend majority of my life looking, connecting my history, and I just wanted to make that easier for, especially I always thought for my sons and my
Mm,
future generations, that they would have one place to go to, that they could say, my Oma, my grandchildren, did the work for us. So it's a two-edged sword. They may not appreciate it as much because they don't have to do physically go and dig for it so much. But
mhm.
if they are interested in it, they will just be able to take off, which took me 20 plus years to build.
Yeah,
And therefore, I think it will be an amazing tool for those who are passionate about it as I am. So I think the dream, holding on to it, would have been selfish if I didn't venture out and share it with others.
love that. Then that's such a great point, and I don't think a lot of people think about it that way, Tina. That by your doing the work, you've now given it now to your children and to your grandchildren. So there's really no excuse there for them not
Exactly.
knowing because you've already laid that foundation. Now we've gotten to see your family in the book, especially in the Little Sandals That Could. If you guys have Tina's book, The Little Sandals That Could, in the very back of the book, we're able to see her actually with her grandchildren in particular. I want to talk about those memories, Tina. I always refer to these pictures because a lot of people don't think about the importance of capturing moments.
Yes.
What is it that sparked you to capture those moments in the kitchen and teaching them things about sewing? What is it that encouraged you to do that? And what would you say to our audience about the importance of capturing moments like that too?
Well, first of all, my family, when my mom and dad got married, and I remember my first picture that I have, and it's a very blurred picture, was when I was about 7 years old. So cameras were forbidden. The
Mm,
churches did not allow the the congregation or the communities, the villages, to have cameras because that
wow.
meant that they would be making an image of themselves,
Mm,
and so therefore they thought that would be a harmful thing. So when my father, uh, when we immigrated to Texas, then he bought one of those the cameras that just has the film and you get the picture immediately, the
hmm. The
Kodak
Polaroid.
film,
Hmm.
and so I got a few pictures from then, but now they are cracking, and so for
Mm,
me, preserving pictures, almost anything that we do in life, often comes out of trials in our own life. So pictures to me are so valuable because it was something that we couldn't have. And now we can freely have it. And I just relish. I have
mm.
thousands and thousands of pictures on my phone. And my grandbabies love that, even though they hate me take, oh no, Oma, don't take another picture. But then when they come over, they will, because I love pictures, I've instilled in them the love of capturing moments. And so they will say, Oma, like they will ask me, instead of watching something on TV, they will ask me, can we get on your computer or on your iPad and look at our pictures? So they
Oh,
will
wow.
look at videos and they will just giggle at their own little videos that I took when they were younger. So it's something that I love so much that now I can instill in my grandchildren the love. And with those pictures, with those memories, come the stories. And so if they make that connection as they get older, they will just absolutely have a wealth of information right at their fingertips. And so
Such a great
I
point.
just love sharing those moments with them.
I love that, and that's such a great thing, for sure. My nephew, he's not very big on pictures, but I used to love trying to capture pictures when he came over. Now I ask him, hey, do you mind taking a picture? Hey, Melissa, gonna be able to see you over on the Facebook side. But it's so interesting. I love you sharing that. I never heard that story before, Tina, about your grandchildren. Wanting to see the pictures.
Yes.
So when I know they've been to the museum. For our audience, I want to let me say real quick for those who are just, because I see some new folks on the Amazon side. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents. We have award-winning author Tina Siemens back with us. She's the author of two books you guys can see over here on Amazon. One is Seminal. Some people never give up. You see it there. The second one is The Little Sandals That Could. I'm going to highlight it for you guys in the carousel on the Amazon side. We are simulcasting today's conversation on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram as well. So welcome you guys. Trip J Band, good to be able to see you. I'll be back in Atlanta the end of May. I hope we can get together for sure. Glad to see you guys joining us over on the Instagram side. So for those who don't know Tina, outside of being an award-winning author, you took a big step and actually were able to start a museum. You're getting ready to celebrate an anniversary with a big event. Where did the idea for the museum come from?
It was born out of wanting to share history. And so as I traveled looking for my own history, I was able to just buy a few little things here and there. So I've been saving up small antiques for about 20 years, just storing them, hoping one day I'd be able to display. My initial thought was that our local museum would move to a bigger footprint and I would be able to just combine that. But that didn't happen. And so after about 20 years, I just said, and I think the moment when that happened was one day you said, if you're not invited to somebody else's table, then create your own.
Yeah.
And I thought, why not? This my museum would just bring a whole different dynamic of history to our area because of my culture
Hmm.
that we can sustain 2 museums, and so it's been amazing. I was looking for that perfect location because they always say location, 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 but it did not occur until we had moved out of a place that my husband and I lived in, and it was about 6,000 square feet. It's not on the main highways, but it's very well known because I had a day spa at that spot. I had uh, like it was an office complex at one point, and then it was our living quarters. And so people knew about the location, and I thought, well, let's just start right there. And that's what I did. June of last year was our grand opening, and the connections that it has brought me is just far reaching, and it's just now becoming known to where schools are bringing in their classes. It's just absolutely been such an amazing tool to share not only local history, but my own history, and making the connections with the local history, with the Comanche Nation, right, being a part of my area. And so it just opened up so many doors that are just beautiful to be a part of.
And you brought up a good point, Tina, and you're right. I'm a firm believer in that. If people would not present the opportunity, it's up to us, if it's something we know we were meant to do, to be able to just to do it, and to see you step out on faith the way you've been able to do, and to do that. And so now you're getting ready to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. How does that feel to know that? Because I've been keeping up, and we're going to let our audience know how they can do so too. I mean, you're doing classes there. You're able to house this history, bring people in to be able to share their own stories. How does it feel to be able to reflect on these past 11 months?
It has been a whirlwind of activities, because I very intentionally, for those that know the title, it's West Texas Living Heritage Museum. And I chose the word living for that purpose, is to not just have a space where you can walk around, make a quick tour, read some articles about the history piece in the museum, but I am demonstrating. And that's what we're doing at the end of this month. The 30th and 31st, we'll have a homesteader conference with bringing in, I think we've got now 15 different speakers that are going to present how to do the living part of our history, how to do the canning, how to beekeep, how to make your own butter, how to butcher and then preserve. And so it's that type of living that I want to be people thinking about. It's not just a butter churn standing on a shelf that was used 50 to 100 years ago by our ancestors, but we can reuse those. So if they just know how, see it by being hands-on demonstration, they will then be able to share that with somebody else. And it's such a fulfillment if you do something that your great grandma or grandpa did, because we now know that there's children growing up in the urban communities that think that everything comes from the grocery store. They have no idea what the process it is for a farmer or a rancher or a dairy to bring those products to market. And for me to be able to demonstrate that is just such a love, doing the living part of the museum.
Love that. Love that. And so you have a big celebration that is coming up, but outside of that, in the middle of everything else you have going on, you're working on book number 3. What can you tell us about what's coming? So in Seminole and also in the Little Centers That Could, it was your own personal story and your family story. What can we expect in book number 3?
Book number 3 is just going to be phenomenal with Texas history. The government made all the native groups move to what is now present-day Oklahoma. Before it was a state, the U.S. government made every one of the native groups. And there's a book out called The Trail of Tears, and that writes about that forcing of all the different natives moving to the state of Oklahoma. And these were people that were that lived off the land. They would follow the buffalo. They would just live, never overstay their welcome in one spot. They were kind to nature. They were kind to the environment by just staying long enough to glean from that particular location and then move on. And that was such a sad and dark part of our history. And history is that. It's not just the glory, but there's a lot of dark spots in our history here in America. And so that was one of those. But the white people came to Texas, to the rest of the country, and settled. And one way of the sadness of what I will write about is the government, the natives that didn't want to surrender to Oklahoma, to the reservation there. They killed off buffalo by the thousand. We had millions of buffalo in the United States roaming the free range. But how the government forced the natives to surrender was by killing their livelihood. They used the hides. They used it for their meats. It was their livelihood was the buffalo. And for them to just then shoot them by the millions, just to take away their source of living. And that was finally, when they were starving, they finally, and this is the same thing that happened in Ukraine when Stalin was reigning. History has it that he had a chicken in his hand, and he plucked, while he was talking to the people, he plucked the chicken live, just the feathers, so that the chicken would be completely plucked. And then he let that naked chicken walk on the stage, and he spread a few kernels of grain on the ground. And that chicken, even after it was so hurt, it was bleeding, he went and picked up the kernels of feed that Stalin was giving them. And so he said, this is what I can do to you, to my people. I can take everything away from you, but if I feed you, you will still follow me. And that's exactly what the government did with the natives by killing the buffalo. And so that is a huge part of my next book, is how that all came about. And then at the end, it was my third cousin, 3 times removed, that volunteered to be the first missionary to the people in Oklahoma. So it's really raw history, and then salvation will come in the end. And so that's a glimpse of what you can expect in my next book.
Yeah. Ellen says in 2024, we see our society want to strip away history, and how any should gather history culturally. Since the pandemic, this has been a fight as to what should and what should stay and what should go. I love the sound of a very diverse culture celebrated like this. This is exciting. So I think it's, in just hearing you talk about that, Tina, it really does show the value of history, right? Because I didn't know what you just shared. I had never heard that before. So I think, for a lot of people, it will be new. Is that part of what keeps driving you? Not only, of course, the history you're able to share with your family, but the history you're able to share with other people that maybe they're not even aware of.
Absolutely. Because if we don't know our history, we are bound to repeat it. But if we know it, then we can avoid the pitfalls of history, that where we don't destroy while repeating it. So if we know it, then we can build off of what we've learned, and then with those lessons we can become stronger and stronger together. Because if we focus on history and the hard things that happened in our history, the dark days, then we would all have a reason to become bitter. But let's not do that. Let's learn from our history, because we're way more similar than we are different. And so if we know the history, then we can glean from that to make the future better. And knowing our roots, that anchors us. And part of the Dust Bowl, and another history tidbit, was because they stayed and over-cultivated the land. They took away the grasses that had 6 feet of roots. And because it was so overgrazed, that died out. And what was the result of it? The 30s dust storms that were seen for hundreds of miles away. And that is because the roots were killed. So that is the same way with us not knowing our roots. We are not grounded. And if we're not grounded, then one dust blow comes and we're blown away. We don't know where we stand. And so if we're influenced prematurely by something that we would think, oh, I was so naive when I took part of that, that if we know our history, then we would be able to make a much more knowledgeable decision of, do I really believe this? And do I want to fight for what is right? And so I think knowing our history will be so much more important going into the future, because it will drive our decisions.
I love that. Tina, that is so well said. And I totally agree with you. I think that's why conversations like this are so important. That's why I'm so glad that they're celebrating National Personal History Awareness Month, because it really opens the door to these conversations. And like you said, we need to know history. So we want to make sure that we don't repeat those chapters of our lives that have been so ugly. Again, everyone, Tina Siemens has been our guest. Great conversation with you, Tina. You always do so well with these. Again, she's the award-winning author of Seminole, Some People Never Give Up. Also the author of The Little Sandals That Could. You can see there. Both are available here on Amazon. I have highlighted now Seminole. It's available in paperback as well as the Kindle edition, as well as I'm going to highlight now The Little Sandals That Could there on Amazon. You guys can click on it either here in this corner or down below. If you guys are not joining us on the Amazon platform, if you're joining us on the other platforms, you'll see a link that will bring you over to Amazon to be able to get the book for yourself. Tina, how can our audience stay connected with you?
They can contact the museum at westtexaslivingheritage.com. Or myself as Tina Siemens on all social media. And I would love to hear from you. Tina Siemens or the West Texas Living Heritage Museum.
Well, Tina, keep up the great work. Looking forward to being able to chat with you again here on Amazon after your big event. Can't wait to hear all about it. I know we have other conversations that will be coming up on other platforms, but definitely looking forward to having you back on Amazon Live.
Thanks again for having me.
Glad to do it. And we thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb, saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.